Okay, so this is kind of an intro on how to use Tableau, coming from somebody that's actually used Power BI. This is a third video in a series that I just did, and I'm going to start showing a few things that are very similar to what you would probably see on Power BI and just how to do it on Tableau. So here we go. I'm going to start with doing a map, and oops. Up there. Okay, so the way that you actually grab fields on here is going to be a little bit different than what Power BI is. And this is probably the one thing that takes the longest to get used to is it's flipped from what you're used to seeing, but then there's also some other stuff over here, like you have this show me, which is kind of cool. If you click on these, not click on, you just move the mouse over this, you can actually see how everything changes. So like these different dimensions and the measures, every time you go over these, it actually changes for each single one. So it gives you a rough idea, which is kind of cool, of what you can actually do with each one. Whereas like on Power BI, it doesn't really kind of tell you that. You're just more or less expected to know, or if you plug something in and you get no data back, you realize it's maybe not the right thing to try to use. So on this, it kind of gives you a heads up, which is kind of nice. It's a little bit different. So it's kind of nice to have. But anyways, here we go. So I'm basically going to be taking the same exact information for the most part and putting it on both of these so that we get the map. So this is something too that doesn't necessarily have to be done, but I figured I can break out, similar to what I did on the other ones on Power BI, break out death versus confirmed, and then that's one thing. You can then edit these here. So we're going to edit not only the colors, but we're also going to just edit the way that the actual maps are going to look. So you go into advanced here, the step color, because we're actually using something with, you can see here the values that they're actually giving are really, really widely skewed. And if you look at the map, the only thing that really shows up in a different color is New York City, or New York, because of New York City. Again, this is COVID data, so one of the things I wanted to do is just change this so that it's a little more consistent. It still will throw in there exactly everything that that New York will have, but I wanted the map to actually look a little different, at least on the confirmed side. On the death side, the death tolls are really not that dramatically different from most states. We'd have to get into a lot more to actually adjust that, but for right now, this is kind of what I wanted to do, is to do this. And the only thing I wanted to do is change the color, actually make it a little more usable, let's say. Oops. So let's go into, let's try that one. Yeah, that's an easy one to see. So you can see the different states and everything. So this is going to be sheet 1, and then I'm going to do another sheet here. Yep. So sheet 2. Do something kind of similar. A lot of these are going to be very similar, just kind of showing different ways that you can actually show everything. So we're doing still just going to primarily look at the US, and then select all on these, and then we're just going to go through and get rid of the couple that are not the the 50 states. Okay. So, and then and to get rid of some stuff too, because I didn't actually want that up there like that, you can just take stuff away like that, which is kind of nice. Let's see here. Actually, let me flip these. There we go. Okay, so that was going to be sheet 2 here, and then sheet 3. Again, going to be something fairly similar, just going to be showing different ways to show the same data primarily, and then showing how to do a dashboard at the end. So, apologize if this is kind of boring because it's kind of just dry. Again, we're going to stick to primarily the US here. It'd be really easy to go back and change anything if anybody wanted to. And you know, in most cases, a lot of like these charts, you wouldn't need this chart to be this huge as far as the values. But if you look at New York City, it's absolutely, you know, it's over 1 million. So a lot of times when you're presenting something or creating an actual chart, usually you wouldn't want to have something like that on there. But the reality is, you know, that's where the epicenter is for the US, so you can't really just leave it off. So, okay, so one of the things I actually did here, put the case type down here, adjusted the color on it, and you can see that it actually has included here, it has the different case types together. Also included a key over here that shows the different case types, so if you wanted to, you could just click on each individual one, just death versus the confirmed. So depending upon what you want to do with it. And then we're going to go to another sheet here. Okay, so we've got our fourth sheet here. We're going to start out pretty simple with doing something, again, very similar to what we were doing before. This is just going to be a chart kind of showing the, you know, confirmed versus death for the different states, and just showing how to build this out, which is not really that difficult. It's just a matter of getting used to where the data goes and whatnot. So like we said before, we're going to pretty much just do the US for right now. Do a filter for the 50 states here. And then, so in order, like you see the ABC and whatnot over here, it's because there's no data in there yet. So by clicking on the text there, because this is a text document. So, okay, so that's pretty much it for this one. And the next thing we're going to do is actually try to create a couple dashboards. So the data that's already here, it allows you to actually create the dashboard. So, so we got a new dashboard here. I should change the size of this since I have a slightly larger display here. So like the size of the display you're using will make a difference in how much stuff you can fit in here and kind of how you want to display it. Okay, so what we're going to put in here, and basically use the original map that we had set up here, and then this is just the data. So now you have the data that go along with the map. Just makes it a pretty simple, clean layout. And then we can do another one here. Oops, actually, it's not what I want to do. Do another dashboard here. So it's just a lot easier to actually use the bigger display because you can actually see all the information on here. Otherwise, it kind of truncates it a little bit too much. So like as you obviously make it smaller, you don't see all the different states. If you click on it, you'll see the states, but otherwise, so you have to be cognizant of how you actually want to display this. If what you're displaying down here, if the state's the most important thing to have on there, then you definitely want to have it on there. And you might just want to set it up so it's just this. Otherwise, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. Like that one, I'm just going to leave the way it is for right now. Do another dashboard here. This will just be a very simple one here. Okay, so we're just going to throw another one in here. So just kind of showing a couple different things. One of the things I actually want to go back and mess with on the sheets, on this first sheet. So there's this analytics tab on here, and you can kind of mess around with some things on here with this. If you click on the cluster, it'll actually cluster it based on the couple different variables actually, but makes it easier to kind of see. So you have values that are actually very similar that are being clustered together. So and then you can go in and change the different values. And again, like on the death one, it looks like everything is primarily the same, with the exception of New York. So because on that, New York's the only one that really had much difference. And you could always change the the cluster here to an actual written or a quantity to make it a little bit easier to see. But I don't know. This is just an introduction to how to do some of this stuff, how to do some of these dashboards. It's not meant to be incredibly thorough, but just to kind of get people started on it, especially if you come from a different background like Power BI. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll probably do a couple more.